Malik Willis will be the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans in week 1 of the preseason. We're going to talk about that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, the Tennessee Titans play a football game this week, which means it's time to look at the Titans depth chart. Who's going to be starting? Who are going to be the backups in this preseason game? Who's not going to play at all? We're going to talk about all of that on today's show. Obviously, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball with quarterback. Before we get into all of that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL or enter promo code LockedOnNFL for a white tech hat with any order. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. I want to thank you guys for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Remember, daily, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round on all apps and always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed to the Locked On Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in every day each week. Couldn't do it without you guys. Let me know who you are down below in the comments. Also, throw a thumbs up on the video if you're watching right now. The show's always free. All I ask for is the press of a button. In return, help support the show. Can't appreciate you guys enough. But with that being said, let's talk about this. And I got a little spicy at the top saying Malik Willis is going to start. But what I mean is, in this preseason game, I think the Tennessee Titans will give Malik Willis the opportunity to be the starter. Now, what I want to do is bring in a little bit of a visual aid for you guys here. I want to take a look at the Titans depth chart as we have in times before. Pull some up here, little Excel work for you guys on the screen, but I'm going to talk through everything with the podcast group as well. But let's start at quarterback. And as I said, I think Malik Willis will be the starter for the Titans in this game. Now, I have said before, I think that Will Levis will ultimately take the starting role or take the backup job from Malik Willis. I think that eventually that will happen. That is my call. That's what I think will go down. But the Titans will give Malik Willis ample opportunity to stay as the backup and stay in the quarterback 2 role. That's why Mike Vrabel said that Malik Willis was QB2 even after Will Levis was drafted. They're going to give Malik Willis a fair shot. So I think that Malik Willis gets the start for that reason. That is why I think Malik Willis is the starter, as you would say. But the flip side of that is Will Levis will be the backup in this game. Now, I think what happens here is, I think in this very first game, they let Malik Willis go out there and play with the quote-unquote first team. That's what I think happens in this game. But I think in the second preseason game, we're going to see Will Levis get an opportunity to run with that first group. I think Willis will get that first series. Levis will get that second series, and they'll do that. But for this first game right here, I think Malik Willis gets all the snaps with the first team. I would expect Malik Willis to play the entire first half, and then Will Levis to come in the second half. Now, all I'll say, and we'll talk more about this as we get closer to the game, if Will Levis is already rotating in the first half, like they're going Malik Willis, then Levis, then Willis, if they're already doing that rotation, then I feel even more confident about Levis taking that quarterback 2 role. But for right now, I think Willis gets the first half, Levis gets the second half, and Willis is the starter. Of course, Ryan Tannehill is not going to play in this game. I don't foresee that happening whatsoever. So we're going to mark Tannehill out here. Again, I don't expect to see him. So Willis is the starter. Levis is the backup. At running back, we're not going to see Derrick Henry. let that go. Obviously, that's not going to happen. I think that Tajay Spears and Haskins are your starters. Like, Spears needs to play. I know he's going to be important to the Titans, but he is a rookie at the end of the day. I think Spears needs to play. So you let Spears be the every down back. You let Spears be the third down back. You get a little bit of Haskins mixed in, and that's your pairing for early in the game. I think at the end of the game, you're going to see Julius Chestnut and Jonathan Ward in a similar situation. Ward is the scat back, and then Chestnut is the hammer running back. So you have those two. So that's what I think shakes out in the backfield. No Henry, no Tannehill, Spears and Haskins, the starting group at running back, Ward and Chestnut, the backup group at running back, with Willis and then Levis as the QB2. So Willis will be the starter, in my opinion, in this game and get ample opportunity to start. Let's go over to wide receiver. And for me, with the exception of DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks, every other wide receiver should play. So that would leave Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips, and NWI as your starting group. That's what I expect to see there. Now, with Phillips, I think because NWI and Chris Moore are going to give special teams value, they're going to play as gunners and be on coverage units. Kyle Phillips is going to be punt returner, and that's it. Kyle Phillips should only play the first quarter. After that, let Kyle Phillips sit. And some of you guys are probably saying, Kyle Phillips shouldn't play at all. Why would you risk playing Kyle Phillips? And for me, it's simple. The guy only played in 4 games last year. So if he doesn't have a ton of experience and he was a rookie last year, Kyle Phillips needs reps. He needs to go out there and actually play. 8 catches last year, 4 games. I know everybody gets really excited about Kyle Phillips because of his shiftiness and his route running ability and all that, and I get it. But at the end of the day, he is a guy who is young, who needs to play NFL football. So I would have Kyle Phillips out there. I would play him the first quarter at minimum. Or at maximum. That's probably the first quarter. There's no minimum maximum. Play in the first quarter. Let him get a couple of drives. Let him take a couple of punt returns, hopefully. And I think that that'll help him get acclimated and get back into it. We can't cover this guy in bubble wrap and expect him to stay healthy during the season. Let the man play football. So I think that Kyle Phillips does need to play at least one quarter for the Titans. And then finally, we'll talk about tight end here. And other than Chigakonkwo, everybody else should play in this game. You let Wesco play his normal role, which is being the backup tight end who's a blocker. You let Josh Wiley be the Chigakonkwo role as the move tight end that can split out and be used as a threat. I think that makes sense for the Titans. Let me mark my wide receivers here so you guys have everything that you need. But yeah, at tight end, you have Wesco and you have Wiley. I think those guys are your starters for the time being. Let me get Wiley in here as a starter. The Titans love running 2 tight end sets. So we got Wiley as a starter here. And I think everybody else after that's fighting for backup roles. Elise Mack. We've heard a lot about Elise Mack recently. I think it'll be very interesting to see what he brings to the table if he's able to play. I know he got a little bit banged up at the end of the week there, but I want to see Elise Mack play. He's got a lot of athleticism. Thomas Odukoye is another guy. He's gotten rave reviews throughout the all season. He was an international pathway player, so the Titans get a little allowances when it comes to having him on the roster. But I think Odukoye is a guy who could surprise some people, but Raider, Odukoye, Rigg, and Mack are definitely going to be the backup. So Noah Okonkwo, I would play Wesco and Wiley for probably a quarter, then let Raider and Odukoye come in for the second, third quarters, and then Rigg and Mack in the fourth quarter. That would probably be my rotation there. But with that being said, that is the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends. I think we have a great idea here of what the Titans are looking at their skill positions on offense. So excited to see if the depth chart they put out kind of mirrors that. But that's my expectations. Let me know your expectations down below. But before we move into the offensive line, which I think the Titans starting offensive line has to play snaps in this game. But before I explain why, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Look at this Bird Dogs hat. Looking so good. Bird Dogs basically make the most comfortable clothes that I've ever worn. Whether it be shorts, like workout shorts, khaki shorts, they're joggers, their sweatpants, their hats, their polos. I mean, Bird Dogs have absolutely everything you could ever want. They have liners inside their shorts, so you don't have to wear underwear, and they're really nice. They feel really breathable. It's not cotton, so basically it doesn't get super wet if you're sweaty and all that. They're the best shorts ever to work out in, to play golf in, a hot summer day. I think they're great as swimming trunks as well. If you want to go swim in them, they're very comfortable. They have a bunch of other items as well, like their polos that are just as comfortable. And of course, check this out. A free white tech hat, baby. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL or just enter the promo code LockedOnNFL at birddogs.com for a free white tech hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL or just use that promo code LockedOnNFL for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. I promise you. Titans fans, the offensive line needs to play in this first preseason game. I'm going to dive into why. Before I do, want to thank you guys again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first to listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round on all apps, always for free. Make sure you get subscribed, stay subscribed to the Locked On Titans podcast. But we talked about quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We're going to get into the trenches here with the offensive line, the defensive line. Going to talk a little bit of edge rusher as well. We're putting together a depth chart for the Titans' first preseason game this Saturday. Very excited to watch the Titans play football. That's my number one takeaway more than anything. Just excited that football is back. But let's go ahead and dive back into our visual aid here for the depth chart. As you can see, green is going to be the starter in the game. Red means they're not playing in the game. Yellow is the backup. Talking about the offensive line. You guys may think I'm crazy. Let me know down below if you think I'm crazy. But the Titans' offensive line needs to play in this game. Andre Dillard, Peter Skoronski, Aaron Brewer, Daniel Brunskill, guessing Chris Hubbard at right tackle. They need to play in this game. Now, you'll see here, I have Corey Levin and Dylan Radins with red on them. That means they're not going to play in this game. Now, Corey Levin could play in the game, but he missed some practices at the end of week, and we saw the Titans add 2 offensive linemen. One was a tackle in Justin Murray right here over the weekend, and that's a replacement for Jamarco Jones. But they also added James Murray, who's an interior offensive lineman, and I think that's a response to the Corey Levin injury and him missing practice. So I have Corey Levin in red. Radins, of course, is on PUP. Now, Nicholas Petit-Frere may be suspended the first 6 games of the year, but he can play in preseason. And I think just from a body standpoint, NPF needs to play. Now, I think Mike Vrabel will just stick him with the third-team offense since they can't really factor him in to any of the conversations for the first 6 weeks for people who actually will play. So I think NPF will be used as a third teamer for that reason, but he can still play. So it'll be interesting whether he plays or not, but I think Vrabel will throw him out there while he can play him. Suspended players can play in the preseason, so just keep that in mind. But I think the Titans starting offensive line has to start. I think they need to play together. One, there have been struggles early in camp, which is to be expected. All the stuff that we say, brand new pieces, 4 new pieces on the offensive line, a brand new offense, a brand new offensive coordinator, a brand new offensive line coach. These guys need as much time to gel as possible. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day say it may take 8 to 10 weeks for this offensive line to gel and for us to have a real picture. I think that's crazy to wait that long to draw any conclusions here. But to me, if we're saying that this offensive line is going to take time to gel and it's not going to come together very quickly, then they need to maximize that time and play. I want to see the top 4 starters on the offensive line: Andre Dillard, Peter Skoronski, Aaron Brewer, and Daniel Brunskill. I want to see these dudes play 1 quarter which I think will be two series on offense for the starting offensive line so they can play together, get their bearings about them, start to build some chemistry. I think the Titans had Ben Jones. The Titans had Taylor Lewan. The Titans had Nate Davis going into the preseason last year. There was some continuity. There was some chemistry there. There's none of that now. The offensive line needs to play. Now, that second team, I think that Chris Hubbard is going to stay in. I think that you're going to see Jordan Roos, Xavier Newman-Johnson, Andrew Rupcich, and Jalen Duncan as your backup offensive line in this game. So you're going to leave Hubbard in with Roos, Newman-Johnson, Rupcich, and Duncan. That's what I think we're going to see from the Titans. And then after that, you're going to see John Ojukwu. I think he's going to come in for Hubbard after a little while. I think he'll instantly come in. And then you'll have your back five offensive line, which will be the newly acquired Justin Murray, John LeGlue, the newly acquired James Murray, Jimmy Murray, and then Zach Johnson, and then Nicholas Petit-Frere will come in at the very end and get some reps. So I think that's how they'll do the offensive line. I think the starters need to play. And then you get Duncan, Rupcich, Xavier Newman-Johnson, Roos, and Hubbard for a little bit. Then Ojukwu comes in. And then NPF, Zach Johnson, James Murray, LeGlue, and Justin Murray at the very end of the game in the fourth quarter. So that would be my expectation on the offensive line. Moving to the defensive line. Of course, Simmons and Autry are not going to play in this game. There's no reason. But I think Teair Tart does need to play in this game. And I think it was interesting. Terrell Williams, Titans defensive line coach, at practice on Thursday, when asked about Jaden Peavy backing up Simmons, Tart, and Autry, Terrell Williams said, well, there's no guarantee that he plays behind anybody. So I think Peavy actually has a great chance to come in and play against Tart. And I think for that, Tart is on a one-year deal. He's an undrafted free agent. He's been good for the Titans, but let's not forget his pedigree here. Teair Tart isn't such a great player that he should sit this game. He needs to compete with Jaden Peavy for who is going to be the nose tackle this year. Now, I think Peavy can play up and down the line. I think he's going to back up Jeffrey Simmons primarily during the season. But I think Tart needs to play because Peavy is battling him right now. You're obviously going to have Jaleel Johnson, Naquan Jones, and then Jordan Peavy as that second string defensive line. And then behind him, you'll have TK McClendon, Shaquille Brown, and Tyler Shelvin to finish out the game. Moving to the edge rusher group, I don't think that Arden Key or Harold Landry play in this game. Maybe we get a little bit of Key, but I definitely don't expect to see Autry, which means you're going to get Rashad Weaver and Sam Okwe-Anonu as your starters on the edge in this game. That makes sense to me. That's perfectly fine. Thomas Rush and Caleb Murphy. I'm really excited to watch Caleb Murphy, the guy out of Ferris State who had 40 sacks the last 2 years in college. Really hyped to see that. So I think that's pretty cut and dry for the edge rushers. Quite honestly, not really much to dive into there. They settle out pretty nicely, but I would not expect to see Harold Landry, nor would I expect to see Arden Key in this game, and they shouldn't. But really excited to watch Rashad Weaver. It'll be a great opportunity. But Jaden Peavy is really the guy that I want to watch in this game on the Titans defensive line. Jaden Peavy and Caleb Murphy are my top two guys in the D line and the edge rushers that I'm excited to watch in this game. So that's how I would think the depth chart breaks out on the defensive line and the edge rusher group. But with that in mind, we got to talk about the back seven of the Titans defense, the linebackers off ball, the cornerbacks, the safeties. We're going to dive into all of that. Before we do, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel Sportsbook is giving you a chance to win all season long, because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get a bonus bet every time they win in the regular season. Did you hear that? Pick a Super Bowl winner, and you're going to get a bonus bet every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can bet on the spread, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Guys, FanDuel is absolutely fantastic. The Titans have a long shot at the Super Bowl, but wouldn't it be nice to get a free bet every time the Titans won a game during the season? So go to FanDuel, use that code LOCKEDON. Titans fans, let's cap off our depth chart creation episode of the Locked On Titans podcast. Really fun. Guys, let me know down below. Do you like the visual aid? Do you like going through the roster in that way, assigning things? Do you guys like when I use, the visual? I know the podcast people are like, well, we can't see it. But either way, talking through all of it, you guys let me know in the comments down below on YouTube if you enjoy having that visual aspect to the show. But with that being said, we got to talk about the back seven of the defense. We've talked offense. We've talked defensive line and edge rusher. So let's get into it. Not going to waste any more time. But before we do, thank you guys again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen each and every day. Throw a thumbs up on the video. Get subscribed. Stay subscribed. Titans preseason game coming this week. But throwing the depth chart back up on the screen here. Things got a little squirrely right here. Looks pretty good overall. Talking about the off-ball linebacker. So I don't think that Azeez Al-Shaair will play in this game. I think that he is by far and away the Titans' best linebacker. I think they know that. And I think that he's going to sit out of this game, which means the position battle that has become one of the more interesting in training camp. We will get to see both of these guys playing next to each other. And it's Dr. Gibby, Jack Gibbens, and Monty Rice. They're battling for that starting spot next to Azeez Al-Shaair, and I can't wait to watch them go at it in this game. So they should be your starters. They are linebacker 2 and 3. Next to them, though, based on what I've heard from the reports in camp, I think that Chance Campbell is actually ahead of my guy Ben Niemann, who I like a lot. And I think that Campbell will be the next guy on the field. But I think that Campbell and Niemann together are the second string linebacker group in this game. I think you'll get Gibbons and Rice, which will be very fun to watch them compete. And then you'll get Niemann and Campbell, which will be interesting to watch as well, battling for that fourth linebacker spot. And then finally, you'll have Reese and Gifford. Now, Otis Reese, the undrafted free agent, Mike Vrabel raved about him after practice or before practice or after practice on Thursday, said he cannot wait to watch Otis Reese play football in the preseason games. So, going to have an eye on Otis, see how he does there. But for me, no Al-Shaair, Gibbons and Rice, Niemann and Campbell, and then Reese and Gifford. That's how I expect that to go depth chart-wise. But moving over to the cornerbacks. Obviously, no Caleb Farley because he's on the PUP. Sean Murphy-Bunting and Christian Fulton. Don't expect them to play in this game. I don't think they're going to play in this game. I really don't. Both veterans. They're the starting corners. I think it's pretty obvious that they shouldn't play. Now, McCreary is a guy that I spent some time thinking about. You guys let me know. Would you let Roger McCreary play in this game? Me personally, I am playing Roger McCreary because I'm going to have Trey Avery and I'm going to have Roger McCreary as the starters on the outside in this game. And then I'm going to have Elijah Molden as the other starter playing in the slot. So that's my 3 starting cornerbacks in this game. Avery, McCreary, and Molden. That's what I would do. Now, after that, you're going to get Stephen Jones, Chris Jackson in the slot, and then LJ Davis, maybe, as your backups. And then you're going to have Eric Gore and Anthony Kendall as backups as well, who are guys who will mix in. But I think that Stephen Jones, Chris Jackson, LJ Davis, Eric Gore, Anthony Kendall, those 5 defensive backs right there will be the primary defensive backs for the game. I think after the first quarter, Avery, Molden, and McCreary will come out. And then you'll have those 5 cornerbacks kind of handling the rest of the game. That's my expectation there. But let me know. Again, do you think that McCreary should play in this game? I think he should play in this game. He's going into his second year. These younger guys, I just want them to get reps. Same thing with Kyle Phillips. Now, obviously, McCreary showed way more than Kyle Phillips did. But for me, I think it's important. I think it's important that these young guys actually get some reps out here. I don't think that any of them are in a position to just not play in the game. So moving to safety, obviously, we're not going to get Kevin Byard or Amani Hooker. It would be silly to play any of those guys. Your starting corners and Sean Murphy, Bunting, and Fulton, your starting safeties and Byard and Hooker, no need to put them out there, in my opinion. Which means that we're going to get Mike Brown, who's actually impressed a little bit in camp. Mike Brown's been okay. And Shaheem Carter. Those are going to be your starters in this game. Mike Brown, Shaheem Carter. Obviously, no Josh Thompson, who I have over here because he's on the non-football injury list. That means that Amani Marsh, AJ Moore, who was just recently added if he's healthy enough to play, Tyreek Jones, and Matthew Jackson, those are going to be the backups in this game, which is perfectly fine with me. So Brown and Carter is your starter. No Byard, no Hooker. It's my expectation here. And then we'll move to the special teamers finally. And boom, go ahead. All of those guys are going to play. I think that Caleb Shudick is going to be the guy, and I keep going with that, and I'm going to stay with it. Mike Vrabel is going to give him the benefit of the doubt for right now. I think Wolf, I thought Shudick would win the kicker job, but I now think that Wolf will win the kicker job. But like I said with Malik Willis, Mike Vrabel is going to give ample opportunity for the incumbent to stay winning the job. That's why Willis is going to start. That's why Shudick is going to start at kicker with Trey Wolf coming in afterwards. So here it is, guys. Take a look at the screen. I think this is the depth chart for the Titans during their preseason game against the Chicago Bears on Saturday. And when the Titans release their unofficial depth chart later in the week, we'll do a little comparison. How about that? So practice on Monday, practice on Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll be talking about the preseason game. Thursday, there's practice. I'm going to do an extra episode on Friday night as a preview of the preseason game. Guys, I'm looking forward to what my expectations are, all of that. A lot of content, a lot of free Tennessee Titans content is coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, get subscribed, stay subscribed to the Locked On Titans podcast. But that is going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this is Locked On Titans.